This game's called Rock, Paper, Scissors Champs for grades 2 to 8. You don't need any equipment, and it's a type of warm-up slash tag game that you can try out with your groups. Basically, the goal of this game is to win as many rounds of rock, paper, scissors as possible, and in doing so, you'll grow a bigger group as time goes on. So the players are spread out, and essentially everyone can get tagged, and everyone can tag people. So when there's an encounter, we see that two players have encountered each other, one tagged the other, whatever. They have to rock, paper, scissors. So we see that rock went and beat scissors, and if they tie, of course, they keep going until somebody wins, and the player that loses then has to follow behind the player that beat them for the rest of the round. So we have a group of two, and meanwhile, somebody else, there was an encounter, they did the rock, paper, scissors, the rock beat the scissors again in that case, so that player would have to go behind and follow, and they have to follow the whole time. Now, of course, as groups meet single players, well, the leader of the group, because it's always the one leader who is winning, does the rock, paper, scissors. In this case, the group of two lost to the single player, so the group of two will then go behind that single player. They have a new leader, and the game goes on and on and on. So you see, when bigger groups meet, then of course the leaders rock, paper, scissors, and eventually what will happen is there will just be one group left, and of course the one who is the leader of that group would have never lost rock, paper, scissors. Everyone, here's a warm-up game activity called the video camera game for grades K to 5. You don't need any equipment in this game. Alright, so in this game, you're going to have students perform actions depending on commands that you give, and the commands are going to be like the buttons on a video camera. So if you say play or yell out play, they're going to walk around. If you say rewind, they'll start going backwards. If you say pause, they have to jump up on the spot. Fast forward, they can start running around. Stop, they'll stop their movement. Slow motion, they just start moving slowly. And delete, they'll lay down flat on the ground. And so yeah, you can choose whatever order to say those commands and for whatever length of time you'd like. Shark Attack for grades 1 to 6, you won't need any equipment for this game. In Shark Attack, you'll have your students lined up on the side. They'll be the swimmers or the beach goers, whatever you want to call them, and you're going to choose some people to be the sharks in the middle. And the goal of the swimmers is to get across to the other side without getting bit by the sharks. So the sharks will yell out Shark Attack, and that's a sign for the students to start running. And if a student gets tagged along the way, so we see two students got tagged, then they must sit down where they got tagged or bit, and as the others make it to the other end, those students who are tagged will kind of put their arms out, and they're kind of waving their arms, maybe like they're drowning or something. You can do that if you want. And as students come back the other way, they can try and save those swimmers. So by giving them a high five as they run by. So the students in the middle, the sharks will yell Shark Attack, and the students will proceed the other way. And so they're running, and if someone saves one of the swimmers, as we see in this case down here, high-fived, then that swimmer is back in the game and can continue running back to the other side. Of course, if anyone else is tagged along the way or bit by a shark, then those players, anyone who is bit by a shark, has to sit down. So it's a continuous game, and there we see another student was saved, so all those students will proceed to that side, and the game will continue on. So the sharks will yell Shark Attack, and they'll go on back and forth. So this way it eliminates any sitting around for a long time, because every round students are saving students, and new ones are getting bit. This game's called Streets and Alleys. It's a teamwork game, great for small spaces for grades 2 to 8, and you don't need any equipment. And thanks to Eric for this game idea. So in this game, you're going to start with rows and columns of students. So here we have 5 by 5, you can have 4 by 4, or even 6 by 6 or something like that, depending on how many students you have. And you'll have one player who will be a cat, who will be chasing a mouse, or you can have cop and robber, or whatever you want. And essentially, as a teacher, you're going to be the caller. You're going to call out streets at some points in the game. When you call out streets, then the students are going to have to join hands, those that are part of the rows and columns, to form streets. So here we have streets that the cat and mouse can take in a path. And likewise, the caller will call out alleys as the other word. And so the players will then turn, do a 90-degree spin, and join hands to form alleys. So before the game starts, the players are going to have to practice the streets and the alleys a little bit just to get the hang of it, to change from one to the other. So the spacing, of course, has to be nicely put. So when the game starts, we're going to have the alleys as the start here. The cat is going to go and try and chase the mouse. They're going to do a power walk, so not running, but just walking, power walking. Here the caller called out streets in the middle when the cat and the mouse were there, so the streets were formed, and then the cat and mouse are going to have to choose different directions. So that cat's still trying to chase that mouse, and as the cat's chasing the mouse, moving the opposite way. Alleys was called, so again, the players form the alleys. And then the game continues on and on. When the cat finally catches that mouse, then you can switch up the cat and mouse. Or alternatively, if the cat's having troubles catching the mouse, you can have a time limit. So if time runs out, then you just switch it out so somebody else gets a chance. And of course, as the caller, you get to manipulate how the game's going. So if you see, well, basically you get the control of it. So that's the idea. Remember the power walking instead of running. Or you could also have the cat and mouse balance something on their head or on the back of their hand, so that they can that limits their speed.
It's called Predators and Prey, and it is for grades 1 to 6, and you don't need any equipment. And this is a great cross-curricular activity, and thanks goes to Richard Turin. He's a friend of mine who did some practice teaching in my school this year, and he brought this idea. Especially, it was great with the grade 3-4s. They were working on life cycles and food chains and whatnot. So the first thing is you can start with a conversation. It's a perfect way to bring it up and have examples of the different types of animals that are herbivores, carnivores, etc. So we've chosen our bunny rabbits to be the herbivores, and they are going to be just running around. They're the runners in this game. It is a tag type game. And then you have the omnivores. So we've chosen red foxes as the example. And those omnivores, you can give them a pool noodle if you want, or a penny or something to distinguish them. You don't have to, but you can. And then at the very top, you're going to have a carnivore who's also the tagger. He's the ultimate tagger. And the carnivore can go around and tag the foxes. So the wolf can catch the foxes and the bunnies. The foxes can only catch the bunnies, and the bunnies have to just run and run away. And as a teacher, you're going to be the disaster, and we're going to explain that in a second here. So on the go signal, everyone's going to be moving around, running around, and of course the taggers are going to try and tag the others. So foxes chase and tag the bunny. The bunny then has to go to the teacher and perform some sort of an exercise. We've chosen maybe a few push-ups, and then that bunny can go and return into the play. It's the same thing now. The wolf has gone and caught a fox. So of course the fox goes to the teacher, does the exercise that you determined, and then goes back into play, and then that fox right away caught a bunny. So that's the way that the basis of the game works for a round. Play for whatever length you want, and then what happens is once the bunny's finished doing the push-ups there, the teacher is going to yell out a type of disaster when the teacher wants to end the round. So forest fire in this case. So forest fire, and then that teacher is going to go a little bit crazy, turn into a fire, run around, swinging the arms around, chasing after people for a little bit, just to symbolize that the forest fire is going to go and wipe out everything, and so that's the danger of forest fires. And some other examples of disasters: you could have flood, you could have things like wind or tornadoes, you can have bacteria or parasites, that kind of stuff that wipes things out. You can have human impact of factories, pollution. So a lot of discussions you can have, a lot of different fun activities. Also, some examples I want to give just of predators and prey. So shark to the seal to the fish. Those are some examples. Of course, kids have the best examples, right? So go with that first. But cougar to a turkey to an insect. I know that picture is actually a lion, not a cougar. Owl to a mouse to a piece of cheese. And so, okay, well, I guess the cheese isn't an animal, but anyways, you can use your imagination and come up with your own.
This is called Mini Gym Riot for grades 4 to 8. You don't need any equipment if you don't want, or you can use a variety. It's totally up to you. So to start, you're going to split your players into some teams, 4 teams, and they can be divided by lines if you want. If you're in the gym, it can be done outside, it can be done on a cement pad, any area really. They don't have to be divided by lines either. And it's like a gym riot, except in a mini version, so smaller numbers, where players are going to complete challenges to try and earn points for their team. So by the end, the winning team, whoever has the most points, and maybe you want to give them a prize, a little small prize at the end, or however you want to arrange that, it's up to you. So you can have your list of challenges, and you can show them beforehand, or you can have it a surprise each one. So you can call players to the middle, so they'll choose one player, and then you can, when they're all there, you'll say, okay, this is your challenge, and they'll have to complete the challenge. Or you can have the list, like I said, and they can choose who's going to do which challenge. Of course, they all have to take turns and have even amount of turns doing, not that just one or two people on their team doing them all. It has to be even number. Of course, also stress the teamwork, the sportsmanship, the respecting one another, whether it's on your team or your opponent, all that fun stuff. Some examples now for some challenges you could do without equipment. So having holding your breath competitions, who can hold their breath the longest, plug their nose and hold their breath. Rock, paper, scissors competition, wall sit, who can sit the longest against the wall. Push-ups, standing long jump, balancing on some sort of an object on one foot, so on and so forth. I won't read them all because you can pause it and read them yourself. Those are just some ideas. You can of course come up with your own. Here's the classic game of cops and robbers for kindergarten to grade 6, and you don't need any equipment. And I'd like to thank a friend and colleague of mine, Paul Groskopf, for bringing this idea back to our school for the last couple of years. So this game can be played anywhere, indoors, outdoors. We played outdoors, and best if you have an area with lots of obstacles. So like a playground, play structure, play in the forest areas or bush areas could be a lot of fun. And we have in our community what's called a fitness park. So there's an area with lots of fitness activities. There's some benches, climbing wall, there's some monkey bars, there's a rope climbing structure, some wall hurdle type things to jump over, and then we have this super huge like netting to climb. So what's important is whatever area you have to designate one area as a jail. Super important for this game, obviously, cops and robbers. And you're going to choose 2 players to start as the cops, and the rest are going to be the robbers. And as the round starts, you can say, okay guys, all the robbers go run and rob a bank and go hide somewhere. So they're gonna hide while the cops are counting down from 30 to 0, so 30 seconds to go run and hide somewhere, find a spot, and then the cops are going to come and get them. And of course everyone's going to be running around. They don't have to just stay hidden. They can if they want, but so the cops are going to come and try and round up all the robbers by tagging them. Anyone who gets tagged, so we saw 2 players get tagged,
they go into the jail. Now we chose this netting thing because when they get caught in the jail, then they can climb from the inside, and they just, so they're not standing around. I mean, the rounds don't last very long, so whatever, but if you can find an area where they have some sort of an activity to do while they're caught, even better. And of course, the cops would continue on going around trying to round everybody up, or just have the round for a couple minutes and then start a new round. This game's called Secret Agent Tag for grades 2 to 8, and you don't need any equipment. And thanks to Jeff for this game idea. So in this game, you're going to explain to your students or your players that the bad guys are the taggers, the secret agents are the freers, and the citizens are the runners or the rest of the players. So that all players are going to be one of those three things, either a bad guy or a secret agent or a citizens. So all players will start in a certain spot, and they'll be sitting down on the floor or the field, depending where you're playing. And as a teacher, you're going to call out eyes closed, heads down, so that all the students are going to close their eyes and put their heads down so they can't see what's going on. And you're going to go around and tap some players on the head to choose what they are. So one tap on the head will choose all the taggers. So you go around one tap, we see one tagger there and another tagger, so those are the bad guys with one tap on the head. Two taps on the head will choose the secret agents. So as you go around, you'll tap two students on the head, and those two or three, depending how many students you have, will be the secret agents, the freers. And then when you're finished, you're going to say, okay, everybody, you can have 5 seconds to find a spot, and then get started. So you'll have the start signal, and the taggers, the bad guys, will go around and try and tag people. So you see that tagger has tagged somebody there. When they're tagged, they have to sit down, and they're stuck sitting down until a freer or a secret agent comes along and frees them and taps them on the shoulder, then they can get back up. And so that's basically how that works. So the taggers tag, the freers free. In this game, the freers can get tagged. So if a tagger, if one of the bad guys goes and finds a freer and tags them, they have to sit down. Now, if both freers get tagged, so we see that both of the freers, both the secret agents were tagged, then the round will be over, and then you'll have everyone start from the beginning, have them sit down, quickly tap people on the head to choose what they are, and go again, and just play as often as you'd like. This game is called The Spy for grades 3 to 8. You don't need any equipment in this game. So to start, the players are going to be lined up along one wall, and they're going to face the wall, and they're going to close their eyes so that they can't see, because the teacher's going to go and choose one player who's going to be the spy. They can do that by tapping them on the shoulder or using their foot to tap their foot, but that you choose one spy that nobody else knows who it is, and then players are going to find an area to start. Now the goal of the spy, and in this example, we've chosen this player to be the spy. The spy is going to go around and try and poison people, and they're going to do that by trying and wink at them. All players are going to be making eye contact the whole game, so they're walking around, finding a different area. They're all moving at the same time, and the spy is going around and winking at people. And if you get winked at, you have to lay down, and you're poisoned. So the spy has gone around and winked at somebody, that player there, so that player needs to lay down and they're poisoned. For phys ed, you can have it, instead of laying down, they can hold a plank to make it more challenging. So that player's holding a plank, and everyone's still moving around. I know we just see the spy moving, but imagine everybody's moving around, and he has winked at somebody, so that player also has to hold a plank. So we have two people down. And the game continues on and on. Now, if the spy goes and winks at somebody, and somebody has seen that player who winked, then they can try and say they found the spy. And if they are correct, like in this case, this player saw that the spy had winked, and yeah, correct, so the round is over, and you start again, choose a new spy or whatever. If that player thinks they saw the spy and they're wrong, then the teacher will say, nope, that's not the spy, and then that player needs to then also hold the plank. And you go, and sometimes the spy can eliminate everybody. It's a very simple game called Everybody's It for grades 1 to 8, and you don't need any equipment. So here are your players in the playing area, and basically everybody's it, and everybody can also get tagged. So if a player can go around and tag somebody, the player who's tagged has to sit down, and they're stuck down there until the player who tagged them gets tagged. So a different student has come around and tagged that player, and so now that player is down, and the person who they tagged is back up. And if players tag each other at the same time, which can happen, then have them do rock, paper, scissors to see who sits down, and yeah, that's it for this idea.